So in this whirlwind journey we're about to have for the next handful of minutes, there are a couple things that I want to not lecture on, but touch on about performance poetry. And then at the end, if you have any questions, I want to, instead of lecturing about a whole bunch of things, I'll leave questions at the end so I could personalize whatever it is you might want input on, advice about, or something along those lines. So please take some time to think of any questions that you might have at the end. But I will talk about performance poetry for a few minutes, and then we'll get back into the poems. So I guess that's the teacher in me, like I'm previewing what I'm about to cover today. So I do teach at the College of Lake County, which is right down the road, and it's so bizarre, to be here in front of you all, because I see you guys coming across the street when I'm waiting to go to Tasty Freeze, and I'm like, God, get off the street. I just need to go 2 more blocks. So maybe I've beeped at you in the past, yeah, which I've never done, to any assembly that I've spoken in front of. Performance poetry, if you're not very familiar with it, the whole concept of it is that unlike written word, where that works better on the page to be digested over time, you get a chance to reread it and really sink your teeth into it, performance poetry is written for the stage, for you to hear one time, and it's up to the performer then to direct you to meaning, what's supposed to be funny, what's supposed to be insightful, pausing, if that's going to allow the moment to sink in, and things of that nature where you're in control of what experience your audience gets, as did the interpretive of written work, where people can have all kinds of different interpretations. In performance poetry, I should be directing you to what you get out of each piece. So if you are interested in writing, you don't have to write performance poetry. That's just the style that I do. But if you are interested, please feel free to email me afterwards. If you're here next period, YCA, Young Chicago Authors, are an all-ages, they have an all-ages set of events that are amazing to attend. I also am part of the Encyclopedia Show in Chicago, where you can go see a lot of performative work as well. So if you do want to get started and get into this, feel free to contact me. I have no problem making myself available. If you even want to workshop a poem or something like that, feel free to let me know, and I can help you out on some level. And if you ever end up at CLC, take my public speaking class. It'd be one kick in the teeth to meet you all again, and you're like, oh, you were in my class last year. Yeah, that's great. So that would be a lot of fun. All right, so we're going to jump back into some poetry, and then I'll explain a little bit about what you could get out of these shows, why you might actually want to attend them. But what I write is a lot of autobiographical stuff, so I journal and I write down my experiences in hopes to learn from them, and I also have a really shoddy memory, so I want to write things before I forget about them. Because to me, poetry and journaling is a lot like when you run across an old picture and then you look at it, and you might not have even remembered that day, but then you look at the picture and a whole flood of memories come back, and you see like some shirt in the back of the picture that your mom bought you, and you're like, oh my God, I remember that shirt, and I begged for it. I'm gonna call my mom and bring that shirt up and thank her, because I know that she didn't have money at the time and still like bought me that shirt that went. So all these different things are able to just fire off when you look at a picture, and to me, writing is that way. So even if you don't want to write performance poetry, I still recommend that you journal, that you write down your experiences, try to make sense of things that you're going through, because having that text account is so good to learn from and learn more about yourself at a later time. I have a couple other pieces that I'm going to get into in just a moment, but if you are interested in checking out performance poetry, here are the kind of things that you could get out of it. I'll move over to this mic over here. So, if you do decide to come out to a show, there are 2 different things that I love to get out of performance poetry and other communities like it. If you are someone who likes underground music, if you like obscure indie movies or TV shows that most people haven't heard of, then sometimes all it takes is knowing someone likes the same thing that you do, and you're going to have a kinship, because you have to go really far outside of the box to find these things to begin with. So it's like an instant invitation to start talking, about whatever that show might be, or band or whatever. And performance poetry is like that as well. So on one end, it was this amazing experience to finally feel like, oh, this is where I belong. These are the kind of people who do the things that I do. And as Allison was mentioning, Derek Brown is one of my best friends who last year performed here. He is someone who I met in college and exposed me to performance poetry. Before then, I just thought I wrote weird comedy and stuff like that. I hated public speaking growing up. In third grade, we were supposed to sing Christmas carols, and I pretended I was sick. I got myself sick, actually. I ate Grey Poupon, and it made me throw up. so I did that just so I wouldn't have to sing Jingle Bells, you know, with 40 other people at the same time. So I was really scared about public speaking, performing, and all of those things. But I still like to write, and I wanted to do comedy or performance at some time in my life. So getting to the chase then is when I took a public speaking class in college, and this isn't me selling public speaking, but I had a teacher who pulled me aside after my first speech and was like, all right, you know, I know that you're really nervous about that speech, but it was really funny, it was well written, it was very creative, and I think that if you trusted yourself a little bit more, and all you need to do is get experience, because public speaking is like riding a bike. Eventually you'll get used to it, stop falling in the bushes, you know, when you're trying to ride, and you'll get great at this if you really decide to put your mind to it. And that's all it took, was someone taking interest in me and giving me encouragement, and I started to believe in myself. So I hope that something like that happens to each and every one of you, and whatever it is that you have an interest in, whatever talent or niche that you excel in, I hope that someone gives you that kind of platform or encouragement, if it's a family member, teacher, whatever it might be, because for me it made a huge world of difference. So then the performance community was one where when I first started going to these shows, I heard people saying things that I was also thinking and touching on life lessons that I had experienced too and thought I was the only one. Like there was a dude from the Bay Area who did a poem about sweating and how nervous he still felt about sweating, and how he had even worse problem where he would go through 2-3 t-shirts a day and stuff. And I was in the back thinking, oh my God, that's amazing. And I had already written a poem about it too. So you have these connected moments where people are vulnerable on a stage and share, and then it has such a profound effect when you feel like you're not the only one who's gone through this. Like if you have a breakup and then you listen to breakup songs and stuff. And then the other thing that is amazing about performance poetry to me is that you also are experiencing other people's lives that are totally different than what you've experienced, which is just as, if not more important, right? Like, you want to evolve, be more diverse, have compassion for other people from different walks of life. We're in a time where, I won't get too political, but we're so divided. None of us receives the same information, and we don't listen to the other side. And, you know, you could hear anything you want, block people you don't want to hear from. And all of that really insulates us a bit to villainizing people who don't think the way that we think. And in performance poetry, there are a lot of poems where people will do things I've never heard of, experienced from different walks of life and lifestyles that make you have an understanding in 3 to 4 minutes of another human being's life that is outside of anything you could even possibly try to imagine. And that makes you more diverse, more well-rounded, and has such a great impact as well. So if you do have an opportunity to go see a Young Chicago Authors event or the Encyclopedia Show or anything like that, you know, hopefully you'll have that kind of impact as well. And if you're interested in writing, then, you know, those are good shows to check out as well.